So, several years ago, I invented a game. The game is called Haddle. It's played with these things. And this video is going to tell you about how it came to be invented and what it's for and what went wrong. But first, the animation. Well, the Haddle story started around 2007. I had long been out of the corporate world, and we closed our industrial equipment and training company, and I became a school teacher. And my second or so teaching job was probably the most fun I've had working. I taught engineering to middle schoolers at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade at Sutton Middle School. Now, one of the things about me as a teacher is I never sit at a desk. I'm always wandering around. And since I was teaching engineering, I always had toys, something I could play with, something simple. A case would be a tennis ball, where I'd throw a tennis ball straight up in the air while I was standing still and then catch it in my hand. And then I'd start walking around the room, throw it straight up in the air, and I would still be able to catch it because of the arc that the tennis ball had, the forward motion it had, and I talked to them about inertia. Well, one of the things that I used to carry around was a piece of wood. And this is that piece of wood, just a junk piece of wood that had been laying around in a closet in the classroom. It didn't have a hole in it. So for a few days, I'd walk around with this thing and the tennis ball, bounce it off the floor and things, and just talk to students. And one day, I have no idea why, I took it home and drilled a hole in it, and I had a golf ball. And I used to play trying to get the golf ball to bounce through the hole. And the students liked the idea so much, they thought that was kind of a cool little thing to do. So we invented a game where you drop the golf ball on the floor, and when the golf ball comes up and starts back down, you have to get it through the hole in this thing. And they liked it so much that I went and made another one. They're both ugly, but they went and made another one. And we used to play a game. Every once in a while, I'd give them a chance to play. And they would have two players, and one player would drop the golf ball when it came up and started back down. This player had to get it through the hole. If they did, then when it bounced up and came and started to go back down again, this player would have to get it through the hole, and the first player that missed lost a point. Well, like I said, I was teaching these students engineering. So on a unit for the engineering design process, I taught them about the idea of you come up with something if you have an idea, a solution to a problem. I realized this is a solution to a problem that didn't exist, but you test it and you come up with revisions and you test it again, come up with more revisions and like that. And that's the engineering design process, or part of it. So I made several different versions of the thing, and I don't know where any of them are except for these. I wound up going home and making one out of plastic. This one wound up breaking, but I made it out of plastic. And then I made another one very similar to it, and the students used to play with these the same way. And then I put them aside. That was just the end of that particular unit on the engineering design process. I did, however, decide on a name for this because it obviously was a game. I don't know that it was a marketable game, but it was a game. And I finally called it Haddle because, of course, there's a hole in a paddle. So this is the game of Haddle. And now it's in a closet somewhere until my daughter Rebecca, who's a chemical engineer, said, you know, I think I'd like to manufacture Haddles as kind of a project with Dad. And that started a multi-month project where we learned a lot. I'm gonna shrink that multi-month project down to just a little bit here for this video. Well, we know that these were going to be manufactured by injection molding. And that's where you take two really heavy pieces of metal and you have them machined so that one side is machined out for this half, and the other side is machined out for this half. And when they go together, inside is the actual shape of the Haddle. And we knew it had to be manufactured. We had to have a mold machined, and we had to find a manufacturer to make the Haddles. We found a injection molding company about 2 hours away from us, so that worked out pretty well. But first we needed drawings, and I'm not a CAD engineer. I don't do things like that, but I did use drawing software on a computer to make a picture of Haddles. One of the main things about the Haddle in the finished ones is that you look at it has kind of a funnel on one side and a raised on the other side. And the idea is that two people who are different ages, different skills, whatever, could use either side or the other. And the funnel shape did help save a lot of shots to make sure that the ball actually went down through the hole. Well, once we had a design that we liked, we handed it off to our son, Christopher, who's a CAD designer, and he made files that were appropriate to have the mold made. He sent us a really cute mini one that he used the file to produce. He downsized it to show us what it was going to look like, and he did that on his 3D printer, and then sent us the file, which this is where that time process of months really shrinks down, at least on this video. Because we sent the design off to that manufacturer in Pennsylvania who had the molds made. And when you do that, it takes a while because they have to machine the molds and then manufacture a few test pieces and then finish the molds and buff them up and all that and put the finish on them so that it looks the way it's supposed to, and run test Haddles, test pieces, and submit them to us for approval. The next thing we had to do was decide, well, we had already decided the material was going to be ABS plastic, which it's really tough stuff. I mean, they're not going to break without a whole lot of work to make them break. And we had to decide on colors. So we sat down and figured out what colors we want and what kind of quantity we wanted. So I finished up to this point a couple weeks ago. I hesitated after that. I just spent the last couple weeks thinking about what I wanted to say. Because in the animation, I titled it as Success and Failure, and nobody likes to admit to failures. Then I realized nobody's gonna watch it anyway, so I'm just gonna tell the story. We finally settled on the idea of 6 different colors. These 6 different colors of Haddle. And we had the manufacturer make 1,000 of each one. So we wound up with 6,000 plus. The plus is because we had them give us the tweeners that they would normally throw away, the ones that weren't pure color, as they switch from one color to the next. So we wound up with something like over 6,000 of them. That was a success. We learned a lot about the idea of getting a manufacturer, having a mold made, making decisions about things like colors, quantities, and all of that. I wound up with a trademark. I applied for a trademark. So I own the trademark for Haddle for a game piece using a golf ball. That was pretty cool. And I got to work with my daughter. So we got to make all those decisions together, which was kind of cool. The failure is we never really thought about marketing these things. So, well, here's the thing. We didn't market them at all. I wound up with 6,000 plus Haddles. Here's a picture of what 6,000 Haddles looks like in our shed. And I have an MBA. In my MBA, I had to take marketing. But luckily, it was over 30 years ago, so I don't think they'll recall that. Now, my daughter has an MBA and took marketing, and that's a lot more recent, so she should pretend like she didn't have anything to do with this. All I know now is, since I'm in my kind of low to mid 70s, somebody in my family is going to inherit 6,000 plus Haddles. We also did, by the way, figure out inexpensive and easy packaging. So that was another thing that we decided, and here's a picture of that. I had to submit that, by the way, to get the trademark, because we had to show that we were actually going to market something, or we were going to make something and try and sell it. And that's how I got the trademark. Anyway, that's pretty much the story of Haddle, success and failure. Or I guess we could title it, How to Spend Thousands of Dollars Making Something That You Never Bothered Trying to Sell. So nobody's going to watch this, but if you clicked on it by accident, I'm sorry, and there'll be another one coming up eventually. Thanks.